Hello, how are you? I am Bill Bossert. I'm the pastor at the Naples Seventh-day Adventist Church. And this is the second, number 2, in my series on Bible 101 with Bill. And I hope this will be helpful to you because we are trying to help people get acquainted with the Bible and how they can find what they need and understand what the Bible is about. So maybe you're new to this and you need to, this is your first one you've seen, go back and see the first one. Then that'll kind of help you know where we're going from now on. But there'll be several in this series, and so I hope these will be helpful to you. If they are, please just mark on there that you would like to share them on your either on YouTube or on your Facebook, and let people know this is going on and that you would be glad to help them get connected with me. And you can mark them or whatever, or send notes back to me if you have questions. So we're happy to have you join us, and I hope this will be, they won't be very long in length. And so please join us and mark them and let us know. You can always back this up and review what has been said, and so you catch on. All right, so last time we looked at the basic Bible and about finding the table of contents inside, which lists all the books of the Bible. There are 66 books in the Bible, 66 different books. And if you have your Bible with you, you can look in there, and there are 66. There are 39 in the Old Testament, and there are 27 in the New. If you have more than that, then you probably have a Bible that has extra. I wouldn't get a Bible for our study here that has just the Psalms and the New Testament. Okay, so get one that has the Old Testament and the New Testament. 39 books in the Old Testament, 27 in the New, making up 66 books. Some of them are letters, some of them are very, very short, but that gives you a basic idea. So today I wanted to deal with several things. One of them has to do, what's the difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament? Well, that's a very good question. Why would we have two testaments? Well, the Old Testament deals with the history of God dealing with mankind from the beginning of his creation down until the last prophet, Malachi, who wrote about 400, 500 years prior to Christ coming to the cross. And then the New Testament writes after Christ ascended into heaven. We'll do all with that later about what that's all about. But just know that basically the Old Testament is BC, or before Christ, and the New Testament is AD, after Christ's death. And so those two divisions follow somewhat with history. If you're familiar with how that works, then you know about how the time years have changed over the years, before Christ and after his death and then his resurrection. But the New Testament ends about 96 years, about 96 AD. So we don't have anything after that contained within the scriptures. So we have this history. It covers about 1,600 years of writing, 39 different authors, and lots of letters and things, prophecy books, history books, things like that. So if you get a basic understanding of how that is. We also looked last time how you would find a text or a Bible reference that said, like John 3:16. And we looked in our Bible and we looked in the table of contents and we found that listed number 4 down in the New Testament section. Can you see that? In the New Testament section is John. It gave us the place where we could find it in our Bible. And from there we could then look and find the Bible text. John 3, chapter 3, and then looking at verse 16. So if you could find that, that's fine. All right, so there are lots of things and lots of ways that people could find things that have happened. And one of them has to deal with how do we find things in the Bible. And there'll be lots of ways that we can do that. One of the ways that we can do that has to deal with a concordance. Now, a concordance is different than the Bible. Concordance is a reference book that has the Bible words separated alphabetically each one, and some of them are quite extensive. I'd like to show you one. That is Robert Young's Analytical Concordance. It's a big book, and inside it has lots of references. So if you were to look up the word love, for example, in there, it would give you all the texts where the word love is listed. It's quite a big book. It's quite nice to have in your library, but not necessarily to have. Here's why. Fortunately, there is something online that can help you with that. And this one, and this is the one that I use. There are others, but this one is one I use to quickly find a Bible text. I said, well, I can't quite remember where in the world it was. And I heard it. It's BibleGateway.com. Can you see that? BibleGateway.com. And you will find that you can look up Bible text, themes, all kinds of things. It's free and it's a wonderful resource. BibleGateway.com. Now, I don't get any royalties or anything for recommending them to you, but it just happens to be the one that I use and that you could use if you like to find things in the Bible. All right, so let's go back a little bit. So how is the Bible organized? Well, we already suggested that there was the Old Testament that dealt with the time before Christ was born. And then there was the New Testament that dealt with the time after Christ was born. But there's more into it than that. The first 5 books of the Old Testament, the first 5 books, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, the first 5 books are called the Pentateuch. The Pentateuch, 5 for Penta. The Pentateuch. And if you look at them, they were all written by Moses. So Moses wrote those books, those first 5 books. Now you should also know that they are also called, those first 5 books there, they're also called the law. Now we tend to think of the law as being, many of us who grew up in the church or have some background, that the law is the 10 Commandments. But in the Bible, you could find that the word law applies to the Torah. The Torah, meaning the 5 first books of the Bible. If you were to go into a Jewish synagogue, they would have those in scroll form, usually up on the front in the platform area. They would have those scrolls, and they're very important. Those first 5 books. They lay out the law of God, how the world was created, what happened to Israel as it got going as a nation. The story of the Exodus, the story of Pharaoh drowning his army in the Red Sea, going through and finally coming to the Promised Land. So you could find those in the Bible in those first 5 books. Then they have the books of history, and then they have the books of the Psalms. They have Psalms of Song and Proverbs, and then they have the great prophets, and then they have minor prophets. So they're all organized in a form. And the last of the major prophets was Daniel. And we will look in one of these next ones coming up here shortly in the series about the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation, how they are together. The New Testament is also similarly organized in that the first 4 books of the New Testament, and if you look at that, the first 4 books of the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, are called the Gospels. And they tell the story of Jesus and how he was here on earth. They're important books because they outline Jesus' life. And they are important for us to know and understand and read. And they're a good source of things. So you can look at that and see that they're on the book of the first 4 books of the New Testament are called the Gospels. Following the Gospels is the history of the early church, up and where the apostles are going around their missionary journeys, in the book of Acts, which was actually written by Luke, who also wrote the book of Luke, the Gospel of Luke. Then we have the letters written by Paul, starting in Romans and going all the way through into Timothy. Then we have a few of the other letters in there, and then we have the great prophetic book of Revelation. And you can look at that book and you can look at that and say, well, that's really confusing to me. But I think as we go ahead, you'll find how it works. So now let's do something really quick and easy. If you look at the very first page in the Bible that deals with Genesis 1:1, you can read there about how God created the world all together in a perfect world that he made. He spoke it into existence. That's before sin came. So he made this world. And then at the very end, the last chapters in Revelation, they have the story in there of the world being put back, Revelation 22. In fact, as we look at Revelation, I'm having a little bit of difficulty because I'm trying to get through all the back pages of that. In the end of Revelation in 22, it describes the earth being put back like God put it in the beginning. It's really quite interesting how in Revelation 22, it talks about the world where there's no more sin, there's no more pain, there's no more death, and the world is beautiful again. It appears then that the story that is in the Bible, which Germans call Heilsgeschichte, it's the story of how God saves man. From Genesis 1 all the way through to Revelation 22. The book is a story. Oh, you can say, well, I don't know. I read it like that and talk. But it is a book that goes through. And I think as you think of it as a book, from the beginning to the end, looking into the future, when the world is made back like God had put it originally, I think you will find it to be a fascinating journey. I hope you do. So we are going to take a look at that. So be sure you get a Bible. Be sure you have it for number 3. And I'd like for you, as we begin, you can start browsing through it and see the different things and become more acquainted with it. But I'm going to help you find how to follow in the Bible and how to read the Bible and how to find out what you need. So we're going to deal with that issue of that. I think you will find it helpful. So please do that. Please mark it on there. We're glad to have you join us. If you have others who would like to be with us, please let them know that this is going on. This is number 2. Number 3 will be coming shortly. So please come and join us. Mark it there on YouTube. Mark it there on Facebook so you can remember and you'll get the notifications when it comes up. You know how to do this. And so make that happen, okay? So God bless you. Have a great day. We'll see you on number 3, all right? Thanks you for joining us. Do it again soon.